Patters. We don't stop here down in sunny Las Vegas. Brad, how's it going today?
It's going well. Thanks for having me as always.
Yes, sir. Okay, Brad. So a lot to get into here, a handful of picks to discuss as always. So on Monday, you came on the show and you gave out two best bets, Syracuse +7, LSU -2.5. If you want to check out Brad's breakdown of those picks, that video's up on the Covers YouTube channel. So let's get into a few more, then we'll discuss a couple of the big games as well. Let's start with Georgia Southern, Coastal Carolina, a 6.5-point spread. Who do you like?
I like Georgia Southern, the home favorite here. I just think it's two programs heading in opposite directions. Obviously, Coastal Carolina has been the superior program the last few years, but they made a bad coaching hire in Tim Beck. And I think we started to see that come to fruition a little bit in last week's game, a home loss to Georgia State. Home losses haven't been too frequent for Coastal. They've been 20-2 at home. And for them to lose to a team like Georgia State says there's something might be wrong with this program that we're starting to see. Now, Georgia Southern on the other side, I think is a program that's ascending under Clay Helton of all people that maybe a lot of people are too down on for what happened at USC. But here's a guy that transitioned this program away from the option successfully last year into a bowl game. And this year's team is much better, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, where they're allowing 2 touchdowns per game less than what they did a year ago. And I think there's a data point that was very misleading that's creating some value. Georgia Southern lost to Wisconsin by 21. The point spread was 21. In that game, Georgia Southern was -6 in turnovers in that game. You look at the box score, you look at the stats, that was a pretty even football game, if not for the 6 turnovers. So I like Georgia Southern here -6.5.
Okay, next up, we have Tennessee favored by 12 taking on South Carolina. Do you like the favorite or do you like the dog in this one?
Yeah, I like the dog, South Carolina, for a multitude of reasons. Number one, quarterback injury. Not widely reported in the marketplace. I'm not sure that Joe Milton's 100%. Got banged up early in the season, got banged up in the second half of last week's game against UTSA, and didn't look like the same quarterback after taking a vicious hit. Everybody's, the highlight reel that you're seeing from Joe Milton last week was his 80-yard run on the first play of the game. People forgot to watch the rest of the game, and we saw a quarterback that barely could complete passes in the second half. So even if he does play in this game, I don't think he's 100%. And on the other side, Spencer Rattler, I know there's a lot of great quarterbacks in college football right now this season. Spencer Rattler, a former 5-star, number 1 quarterback out of high school, didn't always pan out at Oklahoma, but he's playing some really, really good football for the Gamecocks. Only had 2 incompletions last week, and one of them shouldn't have been one because of a pass interference. So I think you got the better quarterback getting double digits here.
Okay, let's get into a few of these bigger games here. Notre Dame, Duke, a total play for you. The number set at 52. Do you like the over or do you like the under here?
Yeah, we saw a sharp betting group right before we came on the show here. Bet over. A little surprising to me. It's up to 54.5 as we're doing this live. So I'm still going to go under 54.5 here. I think the pathway for Notre Dame to get settled into the game, because let's see if they're flat or not coming off the disappointing loss against Ohio State, is to work the ground, which just so happens to be the weakness for Duke. And I'm not so sure about Duke, because you look at the last 2 years under Mike Elko, who's done as good of a job as anybody in college football last 2 years building this Duke program up. They haven't really played anybody. They played one ranked team. That was Clemson in the opener, a Clemson team that failed to score 3 different times inside the 10-yard line, 0 points in that game. So I'm not sure what to make of the side. Let's go under the total. I do like Duke defensively, and I think Notre Dame is just going to work the clock.
Okay, we can't do a show without talking Deion Sanders in Colorado. Of course, they got absolutely humiliated last weekend. They're going to try to bounce back. It's not going to be easy. They're a 21.5-point underdog taking on USC. Do you think Colorado can at least be competitive in this one?
In a word, no, I do not see it. This is a team that is 2 plays away from being the team that we all thought they would be, and that's a well below average team. I mean, Colorado State and TCU had chances to beat Colorado, just didn't do it. Is Colorado a little bit better than we expected? Yeah, but man, they're starting to wear down. As far as depth was always going to be an issue, and I'm really concerned about the secondary. Travis Hunter already out for a few games, and now Shiloh Sanders banged up last week against Oregon. Not ideal situation facing USC's vaunted passing attack. And I'll give you a major mismatch on the other side of the ball. USC is one of the best teams in the country getting after the quarterback. don't believe me, ask Arizona State last week, who they sacked their quarterback 8 times.
Wow.
Colorado, second to last in the country as far as allowing sacks. 23 sacks allowed in 4 games. I think USC really gets after Shedeur Sanders. Let's go ahead and lay it with the Trojans.
Okay, Brad. So big news in the sports betting world as sports betting is officially legal in the state of Kentucky as of this morning. So let's talk about 2 football teams in the state of Kentucky. Actually, a pretty big game here. Florida Gators taking on the Wildcats, a tight spread of 1 point favoring the Wildcats. You think they can take care of business?
No, I don't think they can. I like Florida outright here, and mainly
Okay.
it's a play against Kentucky because I don't know what Kentucky is. Out of all the top 40 teams in the country, Kentucky's played the weakest schedule out of all those 40 teams. Now, they played 2 MAC teams, below average MAC teams, an FCS school, and Vanderbilt out of the SEC. A Vanderbilt game that if you pop on the tape, you see Kentucky scoring 2 defensive touchdowns last week. So that was a little bit of a phony final. I'm not buying it. And the stats say they're a superior team. I don't see it. What I do see with Florida is a really good data point with a home win over Tennessee. And the Utah game was tough, but I thought they settled in after they got blitzed early in that game. And in the second half, it really showed some things that they build upon since that game. So I think obviously Florida's the better defensive team. They'll work on Kentucky as far as the ground game. Let's go Florida outright here, plus the 1.
Okay, last but not least, we have Louisville as a 3.5-point favorite taking on NC State. How do you analyze this one?
I'm going to lay it with Louisville, the road team, on a short week. So that's not ideal, but what's not ideal is NC State's point spread record so far this year. They haven't covered a single point spread so far this season. Very overrated team, taking a step back defensively. Brennan Armstrong, their much ballyhooed transfer quarterback from Virginia, it's just not a very good quarterback, to say the least. Louisville, first-year coach Jeff Brom, they have handled business. For a first-year coach and team, I really like what I've seen from them. They were down 15 points against Georgia Tech in the opener, rallied, won the game. First game under Brom. And then at the goal line against Indiana, they got to make a stop. Indiana has 4 chances inside the 3-yard line. Louisville stops them, saves the game, wins the game. So I think in a competitive game, I just trust what I've seen from Louisville already this season. Let's lay the 3.5.
Okay, an absolute avalanche of picks there from Brad. But before we let you at the door, quick question. So when you were on with us Monday, we talked about some strategies that bettor should apply when trying to get a jump on some of these spreads and totals earlier in the week. It is inevitable, though, that a lot of people are just waiting until Saturday morning, a couple hours before the game to get their action in. Do you have any tips for the people out there what to be on the lookout for if you're waiting till basically a couple hours before the game to get your bets in?
Yeah, so there's 3 things. Great question. Great follow-up from Monday's show. 3 things. Number 1, weather. That's one thing. If you're waiting a game day, look at the weather. You don't have to know anything about any of the teams. Just look at the radar, look at the wind forecast. What you're looking for is heavy rain, not a chance of rain. You want significant rain and or 15 plus mile per hour wind. Obviously, that's what you want to look for on game day there. It's not always appropriately priced in, especially on the smaller colleges. It might, if there's a weather impacting an Alabama-Texas game, that might be priced in. Would be impacting a Toledo, Northern Illinois game and be appropriately priced in? Maybe not. And certainly not in the FCS market there. And number 2, I would say quarterback injuries, follow them. There's quite a few of them this weekend that I'm actually waiting on to pounce. And it's actually the opposite. So I'll give you one Friday night. I think Cam Rising might play for Utah. I hope he gets ruled in. So when that point spread drops down from 3.5, where it's currently sitting, where Utah's a 3.5 point underdog, he gets ruled in and it goes down to 2. I'm going to fade that because I think Cam Rising is a quarterback that's going to be very rusty in his first start of the season. So that's what you're looking for, injuries, weather. And then, I know it's not for everybody, but there's lines up for 50 games each week. And then they're not posted until Saturday. That is the FCS. Pick a conference in the FCS. Just study those teams. Do basic power ratings. You can win. You can't get $5,000 a game down on these games, but for most of the people watching who are betting $20, $50, $100 a game, you can be very profitable betting FCS football.
All right, there we have it. Some great tips from Brad, and a lot of picks as well. So, Brad, we thank you very much for joining us once again today. Best of luck with your action over the weekend, and we'll catch you again on Monday.
All right. Thanks for having me as always.